I open this public meeting of the Council of Deans by expressing our faith in God. Our help is in the name of the Lord, who made heaven and earth. Please be seated. Your Excellency, Mr. Ambassador of India, Madam President of the Dutch Hindu Council, esteemed colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it is an extraordinary occasion for me to welcome so many guests of honor, colleagues and students, both here in this room and across the globe, our live stream being followed in Suriname, India, USA, Canada, Australia, UK, Belgium, Hungary, and probably several other places that Sharda has connections to. The reason for this diverse audience is, of course, our speaker, Professor Sharda Nandram, who today officially accepts her tenure as Professor of Hindu Spirituality and Society. When I am allowed to introduce her, Sharda Nandram was born in a Hindustan family in Suriname, with two of her grandparents originating from Jodhpur in India. She grew up in Paramaribo and moved to Diemen at age 19 to study psychology and economy at the University of Amsterdam, and eventually received a doctorate in social psychology from this Vrije Universiteit for her dissertation on the role of volunteers in labor unions. Since 1995, she has worked at Nijrode Business University, and since 2016, she's also affiliated to Banastali University in Jaipur, India. Since May 2019, Sharda Nandram holds the chair in Hindu Spirituality and Society at the Faculty of Religion and Theology of this university. It is my privilege to invite Professor Nandram to deliver her inaugural address with the enticing title, How We Do Things to Why We Exist, Integrative Spirituality in the Fourth Industrial Revolution. The floor is yours.
Rector, ladies and gentlemen, it may seem odd to suggest a link between industry and spirituality. However, in the Fourth Industrial Revolution, the New Age, scholars assume that citizens will encounter more existential questions than ever before. Originally, such questions belonged to the fields of religion, theology, philosophy, and spirituality. It is therefore important, as a member of the Faculty of Religion and Theology of the Vrije University of Amsterdam, and as a professor of Hindu Spirituality and Society, to reflect on a key topic in society, the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Technologists and entrepreneurs assume that this era will have a huge impact on all domains of life. Scholars such as Professor Klaus Schwab, founder of the World Economic Forum, stress that the Fourth Industrial Revolution will redefine what it means to be human. This forum, which has been globally active for the past 48 years and uses multi-stakeholders theories, recently pointed to an urgent need to rethink our humanness in the midst of technological advancements. Professor Schwab stresses that the narrative that shapes who we are should reflect a collaborative approach involving various scientific disciplines. In other words, it should reflect an interdisciplinary approach. After considering the work of the Forum, its call to rethink our role, and my work on spirituality over the past 12 years, I conclude that such a collaboration is indeed necessary and that it invites an integrative approach. What does this integrative approach involve? It starts with a broader perception of reality than scholars usually adopt. It requires scholars to strive for coherence. This broader process of perception starts with a holistic understanding of reality, which naturally encourages an interdisciplinary working method. My use of the term holistic in relation to the integrative approach is inspired by Vedic scriptures. The Vedic scriptures are an important foundational element of Hinduism. They assume that an understanding of any reality requires an understanding of the knowledge trinity. This trinity describes the process of knowing, which consists of the knower, the knowable or the thing to be known, and knowledge. Usually, we only focus on knowledge as detached from the person who is trying to get to know something, and we tend not to stress the importance of finding a proper name for what we are trying to know. However, if we try to find a proper name, we are driven to define the things that we study. In that process, we come to understand the distinctive qualities of the thing that we are studying. Different schools of thought often fall under the umbrella term Hinduism. They provide arguments for a holistic view of reality and an inherent call to strive towards coherence. One of the main assumptions in these schools of thought is that all life is connected in moving towards a form of coherence, and that it is our task to sharpen our perceptions in order to see and experience that coherence. The assumption that life leads towards harmony, equilibrium, or coherence is built on the Vedic thinking that life as macrocosm is a reflection of life as microcosm. In other words, as is an atom, so is the universe. This is expressed in a commonly used verse in the oral Vedic tradition, Yat Pinde Tat Brahmande. There are many expressions for the idea of all connectedness. I will mention some of them. Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. All this is Brahman. Ekam Eva Dvitiyam. That Brahman is one without a second. Prajnanam Brahma. Consciousness is Brahman. Ayam Atma Brahma. This self, Atman, is Brahman. Tat Tvam Asi. You are Brahman, or knowledge is Brahman. Aham Brahma Asmi. I am Brahman. All connectedness encourages the intent towards coherence. The idea of coherence is gradually entering the field of modern physics. Physicist Erwin Laszlo explains that scientists first assume that matter vibrates. However, there is no basic substance that we can conclusively call matter. The world is a set of variously formed clusters of vibration, and matter is the way the vibrations appear upon observation. To quote Laszlo, the new physics tells us that it is not from bits of matter, but from clusters of highly ordered, informed vibrations that the things we find in the world are built. The information of the vibrations makes the world what it is, a system of coherent clusters and waves of vibration, and not a welter of random things and events. End of quote. The new insights in physics strengthen the assumption of coherence that is core to the integrative approach that I have developed together with colleagues over the past several years. The integrative approach creates room to evaluate all entities, perspectives, and purposes in order to derive a holistic picture. As can be seen in the figure, no observation can be outrightly rejected as false. This subsequently requires contextualizing viewpoints with the basic assumption that there are always many viewpoints on any phenomenon that we want to study. The phenomenon of spirituality is such that we find many viewpoints in different contexts in the literature. After reflecting on the terms holistic, coherence, all-connectedness, and based on the Vedic insights, I prefer to position the Hindu view of the world as an integrative anchor in order to understand develop, and challenge the scholarly field of spirituality. In so doing, I hope to meet the worldwide call to shape a narrative of who we are that contributes to the sustainable development of societies. I think that in order to understand who we are, we need to ask ourselves a deeper question. Why do we exist? Hence, the title of my inaugural lecture is Integrative Spirituality in the Fourth Industrial Revolution, with the subtitle, From How We Do Things to Why We Exist. I will first look at the field of spirituality and define integrative spirituality. I will then briefly reflect on the Fourth Industrial Revolution and why integrative spirituality can contribute to how we do things, which naturally leads to existential questions. Subsequently, I will discuss the themes of my research agenda. At the end of my lecture, I will express my gratitude in Dutch. As a field of study, spirituality was originally being positioned in the context of religion. However, views on the interrelationships are divisive. Some scholars only focus on the theme of spirituality as a driving force for rethinking paradigms that are used in the context of organizational science, management, and entrepreneurship. The impact of spirituality can be seen in practice too. Large traditional multinational corporations are now actively incorporating spirituality into their human resource management and strategic policies. Up-and-coming technology companies in Silicon Valley are adopting these practices as well. They do so mainly as part of their strategy to nurture employees' well-being as well as their ability to stay creative and innovative. Several prominent businessmen have also highlighted the relevance of such practices. Scholars are not just using theoretical scientific arguments to promote spirituality. Some have started empirical studies, mainly on the relevance of spirituality in society, especially in the workplace. Another more fundamental question is, what is spirituality? Do we have a definition for it? If there is inconsistency in definitions of spirituality, scholars who are interested in this construct will be unable to communicate both within and across disciplines. I conducted research on existing definitions of spirituality in two phases. The 2 phases of data collection resulted in a total of 142 definitions. I followed guidelines for classification of elements or taxonomy for analyzing these definitions, and the following rules were applied. A definition should have a genus, which means that it explains the class to which spirituality belongs. A definition should have a differential property, such that it explains the unique quality of spirituality. A definition should tell us about the entity covered by the spirituality definition. An interesting finding of this study is that the existing definitions of spirituality have multiple levels: individual development, organizational impact, and life in general. Some do not even mention a level. Moreover, they have multiple dimensions, for example, inner life, transcendence, connectedness, self-realization, and sacred. I also found definitions that address multiple layers: physical, emotional, vital, mental, psychic, before they reach the spiritual layer. Furthermore, many definitions are not focused, or the genus is inadequately mentioned. Ideally, we aim for consistency in definitions. In analyzing and coding the genus, our aim is to find an underlying category. However, it was difficult to find only a few types of underlying genus in the 142 definitions. In fact, I found 97 types of genus. I analyzed the definitions again using genus categories. This led to a lower number of genus types. Notably, the definitions included things that one can perceive about existence, as well as aspects that cannot be perceived in the regular mental realm. Some of them referred to a search or connecting to something sacred. In the literature, we see an attempt to design measurements for spirituality by describing many types of dimensions. These attempts do not really help the field to converge on an understanding of spirituality. Therefore, I believe there is a need for a definition of spirituality. To define spirituality, I followed the guidelines for definitions that I found in the literature. The Nyaya Indian logic tradition also offers guidelines for definitions as well as various forms of logic that can help prove or disprove definitions. I applied 3 guidelines for definitions from this tradition. The first one, Uddesh. What are all the constituents or elements of spirituality? Second, Lakshan. What is the differential property of spirituality? Third, Pariksha. This is the process of removing any inconsistencies that occur when defining or assessing the differential property of spirituality. There seemed to be a need for integrativeness to reconcile the different views on religion and spirituality in order to propose a definition that can be widely used. I will mention 3 views. First, religion is positioned as either transcendent or immanent, or sometimes both, referring to all aspects of human relationships to the divine, a higher force, or a power that is bigger and greater than us. Second, religion is positioned as a distinct way of living together that is expressed in distinct emotions, beliefs, ways of thinking, practices, habits, desires, purposes, commitments, and virtues. This view of religion has 3 divisions: value orientations concerning ultimate meaning, worldview as a basic set of assumptions, and ways of thinking about self and our place in the world. Third, religion is seen as a cultural phenomenon using either an ethic or an emic model. In the ethic model, religion is seen as a universal phenomenon with similarities across all settings in different cultures. In the emic model, each religion is seen as a unique system that allows for own interpretations and unique qualities. In the analysis of definitions, I found all of these variations of categories. Some key questions arise. What makes spirituality distinct from religion? Should we look for such a distinction, or can we just borrow these categories for spirituality? Sinbauer and Pargamen note that scholars of religion seem to be more concerned with religion's ontology than its praxeology. The discussion regarding the divide does not appear to be relevant in scholarly work on spirituality in management. In that stream of research, spirituality seems to be treated in the same way as religion, and the interest lies in its impact rather than its ontological or epistemological aspects. Sinbauer and Pargamen call for a reconciliation of ethic and emic differences, objective and subjective truths, the research and relevance of clinical practice, local and universal truths, and science and hermeneutics. Of all of the categories that I mentioned earlier, I believe spirituality as a worldview fits best with the integrative nature of Hinduism. This is because worldview allows for a holistic approach, which is a core aspect of integrativeness. After deciding to use the concept of worldview, let me continue with the definition. Spirituality cannot be captured in one definition, as my colleagues Bukart and Solnay from the SPES suggest. They see it as a rich, intercultural, and multi-layered concept. Therefore, my aim is to develop a definition schema in order to address the challenges that are mentioned in the literature. To give scope to different worldviews and to express what spirituality means for different individuals, I first propose a definition schema that can then be used for all of these purposes. A definition schema can be converted to a tick definition. How does this work? We can think of adding the terms integrative or Hinduism to spirituality and then develop a specific definition by following the worldview of Hinduism. We can also expand the definition schema by applying it in certain domains such as workplace spirituality, organizational spirituality, or entrepreneurial spirituality. We can also think of the process of spirituality and define, for instance, spiritual leadership, spiritual entrepreneurship, or spiritual economics. The definition schema that I propose is spirituality is any entity's quality of becoming aware of the connectedness with its existence beyond perceived existence. The underlying terms in the definition schema are those that can be elaborated to derive a thick definition. This can be applied in specific contexts from a specific perspective and for a specific purpose. As the concept of spirituality deals with the world within and without, which has infinite dimensions, quality has been chosen as the genus. This represents a limitless thing, a process on an infinite scale, a continuum, or simply a journey. The differential property is connectedness with one's existence beyond perceived existence. The term existence has multiple dimensions. Existence can be seen as a continuum. It contains individual development. Everyone has an idea of existence, but it is not objectively defined. In the definitions that I analyze, scholars attempt to provide lists of things. However, they are all trying to capture existence. Different people have different awareness of existence. Some may consider their existence in terms of, for instance, I am the body, or I am a citizen of the Netherlands. Usually people have different ideas of the self. People differ in how they see the world, and therefore their sense of world-making is different. The phrase beyond perceived existence also has more dimensions such as inner, outer, sacred, and transcendent. It goes beyond the physical and mental realms. Going beyond perceived existence can be labeled as being spiritual or the process of spirituality. The proposed definition schema gives direction to everyone. It is observer-centric. Experiences are important, and everyone has his or her own experience with existence. Experiences offer the potential to develop, to change, to act, and to transform. Your existence expands by virtue of connectedness to the realm beyond. Then your perceived existence also changes. It enriches the existential context of I or the self. It enriches the existential part of your identity. By defining spirituality as a schema, as I propose here, some of the concerns that are mentioned in the literature can be addressed. If we follow the worldview of Hinduism, then we can add the phrase true detached observation to the definition. This leads to the following definition of integrative spirituality. A quality, or in Hindi, a gun, of any entity of becoming aware of the connectedness with its existence beyond perceived existence through detached observation. In Hinduism, this detached observation is at the core of relating to existence. A detached observation helps us to know where we are heading in the cycle of life. It helps us to understand who we are and why we exist. After elaborating on spirituality and the integrative aspect, let me now move to the context of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Engineers tell us that the technological possibilities that are awaiting us will be more disruptive than ever. In this regard, I refer to the work of the World Economic Forum and the two books written by Professor Klaus Schwab. The first book is The Fourth Industrial Revolution, published in 2016, and the second book, which he co-authored with Nicholas Davis in 2018, is Shaping the Future of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. In the foreword, the latter, Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft, expresses his appreciation for the technological shifts in three areas: mixed reality, artificial intelligence, and quantum computing. One of the most fundamental shifts he mentioned is mixed reality. He explains, I will quote him, "We will have access to colleagues, customers, friends, anywhere we want to access them. They will be available to us as the data and apps that we have on our phones." End of quote. Artificial intelligence will enable experiences and augment human capabilities in ways that we would not be able to achieve on our own. Nadella believes that there are two important conditions for success. People and organizations need to be empowered by democratizing access to intelligence, and they need confidence in the use of technology. He also stresses that both of these conditions require an ethical imperative to be inclusive and transparent in the design of these technologies. Scope and Davis state that we are at a crossroads. The policies that were once the enablers of success are now failing us. Neurotechnologies and biotechnologies are pushing us to rethink what it means to be human. These authors stress that the fourth industrial revolution has the potential to robotize humanity. If that happens, it will fundamentally and negatively affect the meaning of work, community, family, and identity. They propose that we take up the call to lift humanity into a new collective and moral consciousness that is based on shared human aspirations and a shared sense of destiny in which values are prioritized because values motivate people to act. This will help to create an inclusive, sustainable, and prosperous future. They remind us that the industrial revolutions in Western Europe brought significant shifts in values, as evidenced, for example, by the abolition of slavery and the rise of the civil rights movements. Today, major shifts are required in terms of rethinking how we do things and who we are, in order to position the new technologies in ways that will best serve humanity. Scope and Davis argue that the lines between technologies and beings are becoming blurred, as new technologies are literally becoming part of us. They are already influencing how we understand ourselves, how we think about each other, and how we determine our realities. In a recent paper, Professor Hanseford asked important questions about the role of these technologies. What will be the ontology and the reality that they give us about the transcendent and the sacred? Where will that ontology be positioned? In the dimension of the real, the unreal, or in both? Scope and Davis remind us that the brain is at the core of what makes us human. It enables us to perceive and make sense of the world and to learn, imagine, dream, and interact with others. Enhancing human brains can improve productivity, education, training, and quality of life, especially among older citizens, by prolonging their engagements in productive activities. Neurotechnologies can help us better understand the brain and how it works. They can also help us to understand how to influence consciousness, mood, and behavior. All of these new insights may help us prevent certain diseases and improve how our brain works. Virtual, augmented, and mixed technologies will blur the lines among artificial technology, the external world, and the role of human intuition. They will also give rise to existential questions about how humans experience the world. With these technologies, a person can realistically simulate being in another country. Amid the many technological possibilities is the example of Google Glass, which was introduced in 2013. This set of glasses has a front-facing camera. How can one ask another person to take off his glasses if those glasses may be able to take pictures of others? What is socially acceptable from a privacy perspective? Virtual reality devices can be used to analyze users' responses by tracking their eye movements and head positions and by monitoring their emotions. This data then can be used to influence human behavior. These technologies bring individual challenges as well. For instance, virtual reality devices could increase isolation by giving users access to fully enclosed worlds where they can interact with digital beings instead of real humans. These devices can erode social structures and family lives, and they can be used to manipulate citizens. For example, if a person's world has already been reduced to gadgets and virtual interactions, virtual reality devices will further alienate him or her from the real world. We can be certain that all of these technologies will offer plenty of possibilities for creating value for business, but they may also increase societal inequalities and, for instance, enhancing feelings of non-inclusion or lack of empowerment. They can undermine trust, collaboration, and empathy. Where these technologies can be used, they can also be misused. What can we learn if we reflect on the previous industrial revolutions on human experience? All of the industrial revolutions brought several fundamental changes with the introduction of new machines, and we have started to use these new tasks which were otherwise not humanly possible, not doable, or unthinkable. But we also started employing machines in tasks which we could have done otherwise ourselves. If we analyze the first industrial revolution, then one of the conclusions is that machines impacted our use of our own motor senses. What is the spiritual analysis of the second industrial revolution? Instead of relying on our direct perception through our input senses, we started to rely on recorded images, pictures, and data. You could say that our input senses were captured. We started to compromise our preference for uniqueness and focus on mass production. Our sensitivity to diversity was reduced as templates of reality were presented. Industry started to treat humans as objects that could be manipulated. As our perceptions were reduced, we started to make many assumptions. From continuity in our feelings and perceptions, we shifted towards discrete categories. We started to classify our expressions using a few boxes and checklists. The spiritual analysis of the third industrial revolution results in a conclusion that we have started to lose the potential of our minds. Technology has begun to control the minds of customers. There is a race to capture human senses through high levels of marketing and propaganda. At the same time, we are putting a significant amount of effort into getting our minds back through mindfulness training and other techniques and spiritual practices. Many skills such as bargaining and communication are being further reduced as we continually interact with internet bots. In the fourth industrial revolution, we can augment the use of our senses through, for example, implants of artificial eyes in our bodies. Those implants are not extra accessories that we can decide to use. Instead, they become part of ourselves. How will one be able to know what is the real self? The question of who am I will have to be reconsidered many times in life. As contextualizing things again and again will become important, a special kind of intelligence is required, an intelligence that is contextual. In the fourth industrial revolution, we see the world through algorithms. It seems that our ability to make decisions will be diminished in the fourth industrial revolution. Decision-making, or in other words, exercising wisdom, is a core human activity. Wisdom, simply put, is knowing when to do what and to what extent. How can we start to integratively embrace the wealth of possibilities that the fourth industrial revolution offers? Where should we start? Some suggest, again, decoupling centralized systems into decentralized connected systems. In relation to our minds, I believe that this needs to be done in an integrative manner. For instance, by creating decentralized connected structures or integrative structures, by becoming entrepreneurial in the mind, and by contextualizing activities. If we do not contextualize the technologies that we develop, they become meaningless. Furthermore, we need to reinvent the potential of communities who can do things themselves. Small is beautiful, a statement made by economist Ernst Schumacher, seems more relevant than ever before. The speed of technological advancements is high. The speed of decentralization without losing integrativeness, for example, by simplifying and integrating activities, is slow. Given the possibilities offered by neurotechnologies and biotechnologies, as well as virtual, augmented, and mixed reality devices, even such organizational innovation through integrative decentralization will not be enough. There is a need to organize activities in such a way that humans enhance their ability to connect to their existence beyond their perceived existence. Overall, at a deeper level, we need to use a kind of intelligence to make sense of all the possibilities offered by the Fourth Industrial Revolution. From the reflections that I've shared, I derived the notion that there are possibilities and there are challenges. However, I feel the outlook is positive given the experiences I have had with the potential of spiritual practices and our potential to connect to our existence, to our real selves. I view curiosity as an inherent human trait that is complemented by an ability to reinvent ourselves. Several of the Vedic scriptures tell us that the world is infinite. Therefore, I assume that there is room for everyone's creativity. The mind is captured by a narrative outside ourselves. As such, the way we see the world is very small. The Vedic scriptures suggest that if we meditate in a prolonged, quiet sitting, the eternal truths can be revealed to us. There are many more ways of knowing the reality than we assume. Life is cyclic, as is believed in Hinduism. Even though the use of our motor senses, our input senses, and our minds have started to diminish in the 3 industrial revolutions, our cyclic worldview gives us the conviction that we can regain them all. After night, there is always day. Our cyclic worldview gives us hope that human beings will reinvent themselves as who they really are. They will realize their true selves again. How do I want to enrich the field of spirituality with the Hindu worldview during the 4th Industrial Revolution? The answer is simple: by building an integrative approach. The 4th Industrial Revolution needs people who know how to intelligently drive technology in a more holistic and integrative way. It requires the rebuilding of the narrative of who we are and why we exist as human beings. Spirituality is at the heart of both of these needs. I believe that integrative spirituality can be applied in different domains of society through different themes, some of which I wish to examine. One such theme is organizational innovation with integrative decentralized structures, which is based on research I carried out for the home healthcare organization, Buurtzorg Nederland. I would like to conceptualize and experiment with social, technical, spiritual organizational designs as an expression of integrative spirituality in organizations. Another research theme is entrepreneurial decision-making. Decision-making through the use of integrative spirituality will be at the core of this research. Research I have carried out with international colleagues has highlighted a new pattern of decision-making that is neither fully rational nor based fully on intuition. Instead, it appears to be tending towards integrativeness. This needs further research. I aim to seek answers in the science of yoga to further understand such decision-making. I want to validate the insights from both research teams in more professional contexts and in relation to a variety of roles, such as social entrepreneurs and leaders. I also wish to build approaches to integrative decision-making and organizational designs that can be beneficial for highly technological organizations and experts who are developing the latest technological systems. In addition to these more generic topics, a third research theme is spiritual guidance and care. What is the integrative view on spiritual guidance and care that is rooted in Hinduism? How does it, for example, enable geriatric care, palliative care, or end-of-life care among Hindus? Based on the latest developments in e-health, we can be assured that this context is not free from technological advancements. Here too, several challenges need to be addressed. How do spiritual caregivers and pandits guide people from different age groups with existential questions in general? More specifically, how do they guide patients? Hinduism invites a multiple paradigmic approach to caregiving. Inherently, it offers a broad range of interpretations and leaves space for contextualizing through embodied knowing. What is the role of Hindu scriptures when dealing with such issues? What are the roles of Hindu rituals and family traditions? How can we rethink the concept of family in individualistic societies? In all of these themes, there will be a continuous attempt to work towards integrativeness in research, teaching, and practice. In addition to these three themes, another theme is the further development of integrativeness through a scholarly approach. What research methodology does it facilitate? What epistemology does Hindu worldview provide for building more understanding of the challenges and benefits of an integrative approach? I realized that any new approach takes a few decades to gain widespread acceptance. Therefore, my idea is to follow two parallel paths. One is the scholarly examination of possibilities and limitations of the integrative approach. The other is to empirically study existing projects and build intervention projects to examine the impact of this approach. In this respect, several topics can be studied, such as the dilemmas faced by younger generations with Hindu backgrounds and ways of enabling them to find a professional place in society. Another focal area could be issues of collaboration among stakeholders in projects involving sustainable development goals and broad topics such as circular economy. How can an integrative approach help reconcile conflicts, foster inter-religion understanding and collaboration, help us understand societal issues, and provide inspiration for new methods and techniques? These are just a few possible areas of application for the integrative approach. Perhaps in addition to the World Economic Forum, we need such a thing as a World Integrativeness Forum. I believe we need scholars, thinkers, entrepreneurs, inventors, and practitioners with a holistic and integrative mindset. With a hyper-specialized or single-discipline mindset, we may not get integrative solutions. Along with the revolution in technology, we need to undergo a revolution in order to nurture our ability to connect to the existence beyond the existence that we perceive. I believe that this will unlock our full potential to understand who we really are and why we exist. Now I would like to proceed with a note of thanks in Dutch. And before doing that, those who don't understand Dutch, I would like to thank you all for being here, and those who are watching from homes, for example from Suriname, also thank you for being here with us. Dames en heren, de inzichten die ik vandaag met u heb gedeeld zijn het resultaat van jarenlange denkprocessen en zijn gevormd door samenwerking met velen. Kennisontwikkeling kan nooit een eenmansactiviteit zijn. Het is een grote eer om Hindoe-spiritualiteit te begrijpen en toe te passen. Een terrein waar grote intellectuelen zoals onze rishis aan hebben gewerkt. Nu is het de taak om het intellectuele rijkdom van hen te begrijpen en te vertalen naar onze huidige maatschappij. Hiermee dienen we de samenleving en geven we onze studenten iets mee voor hun levenlang proces van leren, opdat zij begrijpen wat het betekent om mens te zijn in het technologisch paradijs. De formele taak die mij is gegeven door het college van bestuur, onze rector magnificus, met steun van het college van decaan van de faculteit, de benoemingsadviescommissie, de faculteitsraad en Hindoeraad Nederland, pak ik met een groot genoegen en dankbaarheid aan. Ik dank hen voor het vertrouwen dat zij in mij stellen. Ik dank mijn ouders, mijn moeder in gedachten en mijn vader hier in ons midden. Hij is 93 jaar oud en het is voor mij een grote eer dat hij hier in ons midden is. Ik dank professor Paul de Blot voor onze samenwerking. Hij zou heel graag hier willen zijn. Echter, hij is ziek op dit moment met een longontsteking. Ik dank iedereen die hier fysiek aanwezig is. Iedereen die met gedachten hier aanwezig is. Diverse spirituele organisaties. Vertegenwoordigers van diverse tempels. Ik dank Jos de Blok, oprichter van Stichting Buurtzorg Nederland, die vanaf 2011 interesse toont in mijn gedachten over holistisch en integratief kijken naar de wereld. Ik dank de mensen die deze dag hebben helpen organiseren. Ik dank mijn familie. Ik dank mijn collega's van de Vrije Universiteit, die van Nijrode Business Universiteit, Stichting Buurtzorg Nederland en Buurtzorg India, Winnerstelle University, de afdeling Indian Ethos en Wisdom, IIT Benares Hindu University, de afdeling Humanistic Studies, en collega's van de European Spirituality Economics Society Institute. 2 mensen die ik expliciet wil bedanken zijn Punitji en Ankurji uit India. Die staan onvoorwaardelijk klaar voor mij als ik in India ben of weer iets bedenk om een nieuw boek te schrijven. Dank. Als ik analyseer wie welke rol heeft in mijn professionele leven, dan is het een web van verbindingen. Ik kan daarom niet alle mensen met naam noemen. En ieder draagt op een bepaalde manier een steentje bij. Om de opdracht van de leerstoel zinvol en betekenisvol uit te voeren, wil ik vooruitkijken en ook nieuwe verbindingen ontdekken. Ik dank mijn nieuwe collega's van de Vrije Universiteit van Amsterdam voor het gevoel dat ze mij geven. Namelijk dat ik niet alleen mijn wetenschappelijke bagage, maar ook mezelf als mens mag meenemen. Ik was hier assistent in opleiding in de periode 1991 tot 1995 en mijn promotor Bert Klandemans is ook hier aanwezig. Dank voor je komst, Bert. Nu, na zoveel jaar, vind ik hier een context die zeer internationaal is en een mooie afspiegeling is van diverse culturen uit onze hoofdstad Amsterdam. En met de Zuidas naast de deur bevinden we ons op een bruisende plek voor onderzoek, onderwijs en valorisatie van onze kennis vanuit de leerstoel Hindoe spiritualiteit en samenleving. Ik doe mijn best en met jullie vertrouwen en liefde kan de impact van deze leerstoel groeien. Ten slotte dank ik mijn gezin, mijn echtgenoot Wim, voor de stille en stabiele basis thuis en zijn Noord-Hollandse nuchterheid. Mijn zoon Naveen en mijn dochter Sharon voor hun vragen over simpele dagelijkse dingen en grote vragen over het leven. Realiseren dat ik slechts een klein stofdeeltje ben in het alomvattende universum, heb ik gezegd.
Highly learned Dr. Nandram, dear Sharda. The words that come to mind when I listen to your captivating inaugural address or when I contemplate your remarkable career are integration, wisdom, and care. Not many scholars are so versatile in bridging the worlds of economy, psychology, and spirituality. Not many are so able to link Western and Eastern insights. Not many so willing to connect academic work with the nitty-gritty existence of societal organizations and mundane issues. Your CV testifies to your broad interests and capacities. Your publications deal with topics like entrepreneurship, labor unions, social organizations, indigenous knowledge, stress and burnout, yoga and leadership, rape and climbing the Everest. I was intrigued by publication titles like Action Research and Karma Theory, or Vedic Learning and Management Education. Yes, you have a long history of working with Buurtzorg Nederland, an innovative organization for home care, and with scholars and practitioners in India and elsewhere. 3 notions indeed to describe the unique qualities of your career: integration, wisdom, and care. The notion of integration seems essential to your work. Not only is it key in the title of your address today and your whole speech, you see spirituality as an integrated dimension of life, especially in the volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world we live in. You even try to integrate the many definitions of spirituality into one holistic framework, a daring endeavor. But integration is also part and parcel of your own presence in our faculty. In the past months, we have come to know you and to appreciate you as a colleague eager to integrate, eager to participate in activities beyond your primary expertise, whether it is on religion and sustainability or on the philosophy of religion according to Paul Tillich. You are eager to cross boundaries, share and learn, and you are now working on the concept of integrative intelligence to make this experience fruitful in conceptual discussions. The notion of wisdom links to the ways in which you forge connections between the spiritual tradition of Hinduism and contemporary societal questions. You engage with the complexities of the Fourth Industrial Revolution and the fundamental and existential questions arising from that. UCV attests to your ability to partake in complex debates like this one and to draw out the spiritual dimension. You delve into the sources of your tradition and find the wisdom that this world needs. In the beautiful interview earlier this year, for example, you explained how the notions of reincarnation and circularity can become meaningful in leadership and coaching, even for people who don't believe the truth of those beliefs. Wisdom can be brokered and made available to a much wider audience than only the believers. And the notion of care relates to the topic of many of your publications, ranging from care for the laborers in a union context to care in home situations. With your new position, you add to that the field of spiritual care. And we have already witnessed the first training you gave at our faculty, with a dozen deeply involved participants, eager to learn how to apply the wisdoms of Hinduism in the context of care. In that training of you, we'll also work together with colleagues from the variety of faith traditions that we encounter in our faculty. It is, for these reasons, an unmentionable joy, dear Sharda, to have you in our midst. We need your integrative, wise, and caring contributions. We need the way in which you present and represent the Hindu tradition in our diverse community. We need your entrepreneurial spirit, your passionate insights, your communicative warmth. I think we must have a really good karma to receive the blessing of your presence. And so I congratulate you and your loved ones with this well-deserved honor. I congratulate your father, whose journey from India through Suriname to the Netherlands you documented so beautifully and who is present here today. I congratulate your husband Wim and your children Navin and Sharan, who came over from their studies in the UK to join us here. I also congratulate our faculty, and I congratulate, full of gratitude, the board and the subsequent presidents of the Dutch Hindu Council for their foresight and for the commitment that made it possible to work together in establishing this chair and the teaching and training we developed for the Hindu community in this country. And I specifically mention Usha Dukhi, who saw this through and who never hesitated to push some buttons when the process became too tardy. We now come to the end of this session. I will invite you all to follow Professor Nandram to the room where you will have opportunity to congratulate her. When leaving this hall, please allow those sitting in the front few rows to leave immediately after the procession. When arriving in the foyer, please don't form a long queue, but feel free to have a drink and meet each other until you see a free moment to congratulate our new professor. I would now like to close this public meeting of the Council of Deans by pronouncing the doxology. Please stand. The name of the Lord be praised, now and forevermore.